Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Andrew Johnson with Elevating Men, and I'm here with my brothers. We're back with another panel, and we've got a really important conversation that we need to have. But before we get into that, we want to say it's good to see all of you because we haven't had our men's panel here in a couple of weeks. We're just we've been working behind the scenes, working hard, grinding for you guys, making sure that we can up the production quality of the show. And so we've identified a physical location where we'll be able to meet in person. Very excited about that. So the show will start having a little different look, a little different feel. We're working on our first event, which is Men and Boys Day in the Park. We're going to get into that, give you guys a little bit of information, but we are really excited. We're really pumped up. We've been at this mission of elevating men to be the men that we should be so that we can lead our families properly and ultimately improve our communities for the past 4 months. We've had a ton of conversations. For those of you that have been rocking with us and going along on this journey with us, you know, the conversations have been deep. They've been very insightful. But through that, our mission here isn't just to talk. It isn't just to have more and more conversations or meet just to meet. It's to meet to develop an action plan. And so behind the scenes, we've been taking the notes from each show, from our conversations with big brothers and big sisters, or the Great Circle, some of the great entrepreneurs in our city that we've interviewed. We've been taking some of their ideas, some of their plans, and we're developing something that we can take action on. And so I'm very, very excited. Can't wait to bring these things to you. But before we get too deep into the conversation that we're going to talk about today, I've got to introduce my brothers. And so to the right of me, I got Mr. LaRon Barnes, LaRon the Motivator. How you doing, sir?
I am good. I'm good. I'm good. It's so good to see you, brothers. Man, it's good to see you all spaces, which I can't see.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And right below him, we got Lojo Speaks, brother Lauren Jones. How you doing, sir?
Gentlemen, back like we never left, man. Good to see you, man. Good to see all three of you.
Yes, yes. And then below me, we share the same name, so this brother's good in my book, Mr. Andrew Boykin. How are you, sir?
And man, I wish I had something like snappy to say like LaRon and Lojo, man. Hey, all I can say is hi.
Man, well, you don't need any gimmicks, man. You just that cold, but you don't even need a gimmick. You just Andrew Boykin. You the man. You the man. But let's get into it. Let's talk about it. So the conversation today is a little bit about why can't we stick together? And I put that in air quotes for a reason. We'll get to that. But why is it that we can't stick together? So we're in the middle of planning this event, Men and Boys Day in the Park. It's going to be August 7th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we're looking to get as many men and boys together as possible in the same space so that we can show that we can connect on a deeper level. I believe that when it comes to a lot of the crime and a lot of the bad things that happen in our community, it happens because we aren't connected. We don't know each other. We don't love each other. We don't care about each other. Some of the hardest brothers I've ever known, right? You know, guys that would rob you, that would pull a gun on you, etc. Even those men, when it comes down to it, there will be certain places, maybe certain neighborhoods. You know, don't go to that house. No, I know what you're getting ready to do. Not at that house. Well, why is it different there? Oh well, no, that's Miss Mary. Miss Mary, she had the candy shop, you know, when I was growing up or whatever. So no, don't mess with her. She's cool, right? And so there's just this element of people in the community not being connected enough to really love each other and show and express that love. And so that's why we see so many terrible situations in our community. And so we're looking to change that. We're looking to change the narrative. We want to bring people together. That's what it's all about. And so I had a meeting this morning with Chris Harris. He's the founder, he's the owner, he's the person that created Harris Park. And I thought it was really amazing. So I was going to go through Parks and Rec. But when I found out that there was a brother who actually invested his own capital into creating a space for us, I said, no, that's where we need to go. And so we sat down, we had a long conversation. He's been building this park over the past 29 years, 29 years to put this together. And so we were having a conversation. We're sitting at Niecy's, you know, having breakfast, and he's sharing his journey with me. And so he said that there was one point he was, you know, trying to get funding, right? And so he's talking to his friends, you know, guys that he knows have money, you know, they're driving the Benzes and the Corvettes, etc. And so he would ask them, he said, hey, man, I'm trying to put this thing together for our community. something to beautify our neighborhood, right? He said, hey man, can you, just maybe $100, because I got to get the grass cut out here, maybe a couple $100 because I need a couple people to do some work. Nobody would give him a dime. They wouldn't give him a dime. And these are friends, people that he knows. And so he shared with me that after that, he said, okay, well, I'm going to do a little experiment. And so he started asking them individually for money for other reasons. So he was like, hey, man, I got this girl, man. I met this girl. She's fine, bro, fine. And we're going to be going out this weekend. I want to impress her. But, man, I'm a little low on cash, man. Can I get a couple $100? They give it to him, no problem. He didn't even have to pay it back. So this wasn't a loan, right? And then he said, oh, man, dang, man, I hit a rough spot. I need $400 for my car payment. Boom, they give it to him. No problem. He saved the money from all of his friends. He had collected $6,000 from his friends for literally nothing. And it didn't even need to be paid back. And so then he gets all of his friends together and then he pulls out the $6,000 and he gives them their money back. Right. And at that time, he said, you guys gave me this money. I really didn't need it. I just wanted to see what was going on because when I asked you about helping the community and beautifying the neighborhood, you didn't have any money for that. And so it really got me thinking, and I've been thinking all day about why is it so hard? Why is it so difficult for us to stick together, for us to pull our resources together to make change? Because we all see the exact same problems. We've been looking at the same problems for decades, and it never changes. We keep this same structure of begging the government, begging organizations to make change when we're the ones that actually have the power to make the change, but we can't come together. There's a group on Facebook, Black-owned businesses, Kansas City. There's thousands of members in the group. Someone posed a question maybe a couple months ago, and they said, man, look, if each one of us invested, $10 a month, just $10 a month, man, that's tens of thousands of dollars that we could invest in the community for the things that we need. And so there's hundreds of comments. And so I'm just going through them because I'm curious about the mindset of the people. And the main questions were, well, who's going to be controlling the money and what's going to happen with it? And when we make decisions, how much voting power do I get? And there were so many questions that nothing could get done. And so that's the conversation that I want to have today. What is it exactly that keeps us from working together in a way that we can be productive, right? We've talked to a lot of nonprofit organizations. One thing that I'm finding is every nonprofit has a mission statement, right? They all have mission statements. And in that mission, it may say to eradicate homelessness. It may say to address the fatherlessness problem, right? And you have year after year after year, well, these programs, they rewrite their plans, they seek out funding, but the problem is still there. They've had the same mission for decades. And so I liken that to, you see some, park, right, or some vacant lot, grass tall as I don't know what, everything's unkept, trash everywhere. And you see a group of people and you say, hey, what are y'all doing out here? Well, man, it's our mission to get this all cleaned up. We want to clean this up. And then you wait a month or 2, 3 months, they're still standing there talking about it. 2 years later, still standing there talking about it. 5 years later, still standing there talking about it. And nothing is changing. Nothing is changing. And so it makes me think about certain things like how we spend our money. I find it interesting that we'll waste money on insignificant things very easily, very easily. We'll support power structures by buying into these expensive, overpriced brands that give us no value. They don't give back to our community. And so you've got a community full of people with designer cars, luxury cars, designer clothes, but live next to a dilapidated building, right? You drive up and down Prospect, there's a whole bunch of empty commercial buildings, businesses that should be there. But then in the same area, you see people with luxury cars, designer clothes. I feel that there's something going on mentally. I don't understand it. Lojo, I'll just start with you, man. Just from that framework, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I mean, it's two sides to every story, right? I think that, one side of it, you could look at it and you can say, uh, you know, maybe, uh, maybe it's not appealing enough. A lot of things that people gravitate to, they gravitate to the message, right? Nike, just do it. Sprite, obey your thirst. They're gravitating to a message. And so I think some of it is we don't know how to word the message to be attractive enough. And so it's just kind of in one ear and out of the other. I think, when you look at, communities like you just mentioned, I think that, we lost the importance of valuing our own things, right? Instead of taking care of home, we rather ignore home and then just go focus on something else. Why? Because you don't have to put the same amount of work in somewhere else, you know. So we don't understand the value of protecting home, protecting those things that are important to us, making sure our communities uh, are safe, making sure our communities are thriving, making sure that we have a vision and a future, and not just focusing on the right here, right now. When you talk about those abandoned buildings, it's like, okay, well, why were they abandoned? Was it because, maybe the owner was like, man, I'm tired of people busting my windows. So then that goes back to the people in the community and, undervaluing or devaluing their very own uh neighborhoods. Maybe it's, affordability. Maybe a business came into a neighborhood where, guess what? You priced yourself out of your market that you exist in, so you had to close your doors because you couldn't make any money. So, or maybe it's as simple as it's been sitting a long time, and nobody knows the contact to get their hands on the building. There's a lot of different things. It's I don't think we can always pinpoint that. What the issue is. If you referencing back to the post, because I remember seeing that post and I was like, nope, I'm not even going to entertain this. I'm not looking at no comments because I already know it's going to be folks on here cutting up,
Yeah,
asking a bunch
yeah,
of questions. And I think you have to be understanding to questions based off of where people are. You can't always expect people to come to you. Sometimes you have to meet people where they are. So when you see all this trepidation,
right,
people saying, "Oh, well, uh, you know, are there any shares? If I put in more money, or
right, right.
things of that nature." You can't be afraid to answer those questions either. You
Well,
know,
I'm going to attribute a portion of this, and we'll get into this a little deeper. But I believe that a portion of it, and I agree with everything you said, 100%. But I believe another element to that is a lot of times it's hard for us to duplicate what we haven't seen, right? And so in our communities, we don't see a lot of sticking together, and so it just creates a lot of questions. Possibly in other communities where things are thriving, maybe they've seen an endowment fund. They know what that means. We're pulling our resources together. We're going to gain interest on this, and we're going to tackle these projects. Maybe they've heard that before, they've seen that before, but in our communities, it's a rarity to see those things. Another thing I feel like is we don't have that long-term vision. We don't think long-term. Everything is here and now. So when we speak to the consumerism, the materialism, how we're able to get an income tax of five, six, seven, $8,000 and it's gone in 30 days. All of that has to do with being a little bit short-sighted. And so as an insurance agent, there's a question that I ask my clients, and Lauren, I'm going to come to you on this one, but there's a question that I ask my clients, and I say, well, what is it that you want to leave for your children? Now, of course, this is in the context of life insurance, but follow where I'm going with this. Whenever I ask someone what they want to leave their children, it's always something material. I want to leave them this house. I want to leave them this land. I want to leave them this business, right? What I never hear is them saying that they want to leave a better world. or a more connected world. And so it keeps us in this individual mindset where as long as I get, as long as I gather, as long as I acquire, then my family is taken care of. But really isn't that long-term vision of, well, what if we do have all of these resources? What if I am able to gather all of these things and I hand it over to my children in a world that's messed up? It isn't effective. It makes me think about, when it comes to like Black Wall Street, right? Everyone uses that example. We jump to that really quick. Well, in that situation, people came together and they built something that was great, and then they tore it down. They tore it down. Well, Andrew Boykin and I, we were having a conversation. Black Wall Street isn't the only place that happened. And so we came down to the question of, okay, how were they able to build something so great and acquire so much? But then when all the chips fell down and they came in, there was no reinforcement. Where was the reinforcement? Who were they connected to outside of themselves? And so I believe that resources is a part of it, but I also believe the fact that we aren't connected the way that we should be perpetuates the problem. LaRon, what are your thoughts so far?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yes, sir.
Thinking about it, honestly, my thoughts are selfishness. And what I mean by that in multiple different ways is, for example, if someone's not the person who starts it, they don't want to be the person who runs with the vision. I believe it's a lot of internal things that prevent us from coming together and saying, you know what, let's work this out together. The center of attention, pride, different emotions that go into it. If I didn't start it, I don't want to be a part of it. As far as moving the vision, being connected to one another, knowing that everybody plays a role. There's no big I's and little U's, but individuals. You once again, the center of attention. Some people, if I'm not, they can't connect because there's multiple different reasons. I believe that that we can't come together. And that's the biggest one. I think it's more of an individual thing. Like I said, I think it's an individual thing. Like, hey, if Lojo starts something, you know what I'm saying? He got it going, but since I'm not the head, then I'm not going to be the center. If I'm not going to be saw, I don't really kind of want to give all that I have, all my resources, because it's not going to look like I really did anything. I don't want to really sit in the background. So I think a lot of times it's dealing with self, not wanting to know that you play a big role just as well. Right? We all are part in this thing, right? It's like we all are a part of the body. We all have a part to play. And if it's a lot of pride, especially in our community, it's a lot of pride, and self-doubt and self-hate. It's a lot of these things. It's an emotional thing that we have a problem with getting together, right? We don't trust each other. Like, it goes all back to those things with me as well. It's an internal thing that we don't trust each other. Why? Because my brother did me wrong over here. Well, another brother did you wrong over there, but we feel some type of way more about each other. You know what I mean? As far as the factor, I can't trust that brother in the streets, so I can't trust him in business.
I agree with that too, and I'm seeing that now. I'm new to dealing with nonprofits and kind of getting behind the scenes, and I'm trying to understand the landscape of these things so that we can make our impact. And what I can't help but think about is the fact that you have all of these programs, right? And a lot of them should be connected because they have very similar or parallel missions, but they aren't. And so when I start really thinking about it, I believe, and I could be 100% wrong, that what you're saying is right. It isn't mine. I didn't start it. And so to further that idea, we're competing for funding, right? And so the money that we need to carry out our mission is held by the government. We work, we pay taxes, we go and buy Balenciagas or whatever. It funnels through the system, and then we create our plan to beg the government, hey, please give us some of that money back so that we can help these kids over here. And then here we are all individually starting these organizations to try to ask for the same little pot of money. I liken that to, I'm not a real tall guy, I'm not super tall, but I can play basketball, right? I can hoop a little bit. But if I'm going to go to a busy park where I know, hey, I want to get down this weekend, I want to play some games, I want to run, I want to get competitive, I'm not gonna bring my 6'9" friend with me. You know what I'm saying? For me to be sitting on the sidelines all day because they're picking him up. And so I think that there's this competitive thing within, even within the arena where we're supposed to be helping people, we're still competing with each other. Lauren, you have actually ran for office. That's something I've never been anywhere near that.
Yep.
I don't even know what that's like or about. And so, can you speak a little bit to the competitive nature of politics and nonprofits? What have you seen on that side?
It's dirty. It's a dirty game. I mean, the same people that you compete against, you know, they want to shake your hand, you know, and then the minute you turn around, stab you in the back. You know what I'm saying? Saying something, you know, that validates them. You know, and you know the use of words when they value themselves, they devalue you. You know, instead of operating on their own merit, right? And so it's dirty. It's competitive. Um, you know, when they say the word politics, I mean that's what it is. It's politics. You know, I'm a smile in your face and I'm a you know stab you in the back when you turn around. You
How much
know, and
do you think
it's
money affects that?
uh money affects the way people see you more so than anything else. Like when people invest in a certain candidate, uh, that candidate is taking that money and they're doing one or two things. They're either really boosting themselves up or they're doing a smear campaign on their opponent. It's going to be one or two things. So, you know, money is just that vehicle, right? To get your face in front of as many people as you can. That's what all money is for a campaign is a financial vehicle to put your face or your name or both in front of as many people as you can. That's all it is. You know, it's really nothing more, nothing less than that. And so, you know, that's why people hire campaign managers because
Well,
those campaign managers go out and do all of the dirty work so that you can just, you know, smile in front of the camera, basically, you know, and present your message. And it's like I said, it's a grind, it's dirty. You know, there's a lot of different things that come into play. And politics is one of those weird. It's a sport. It's a sport, and politics is one of those weird sports where, you know, you come in with the right intentions, but then the system can swallow you up, and then you become everything that you got into it not to be. Uh, and so, you know, that happens a lot, you know, and people change, you know, and some of that's education. I think sometimes we look down on politicians for making certain decisions, but we're not educated enough to say whether or not they really made the right or the wrong decision. We're just kind of going off of a gut thought or a gut feeling that, oh, well, you know, he shouldn't have did that. Well, maybe he educated himself in a way. And politicians are very vague. You know, they can be very vague. They're not going to dive into specifics because that's kind of not their job. They're just a representation, right? You know, if you go out and you buy a polo shirt, right?
mhm.
Everybody looks at the logo. The logo is the representation. A politician is a lot like a logo. He's just a representation of a
Now,
uh,
now,
a larger scope.
and when you say representation, so let's unpack that a little bit because
Mhm.
who, who are they representing? Because we
They are.
elect them, but we all know the term lobbyist. We know what
Mhm.
lobbyists are. And so we have sectors of industry who pull resources together to back candidates to hold them accountable when they get into office to their agenda, not the community's agenda, but theirs. And so everything ends up circling back to money and who controls the money. And whoever controls the money and the resources makes the decisions, even if there's a puppet in front of them and we don't see the full picture. Um, Andrew, I know you kind of been in and out trying to get yourself situated. Have you been able to hear the conversation so far?
Not really, and I apologize to you all in the audience for my distraction.
No, hey,
But
listen, man,
what
we
was
know
the
we're online. We know we're online, so we know how this works. That's why we're working on doing this in
Yeah.
person. Yes, sir. But
Yeah. We're having cloud cover out here, out east right now.
okay. And
So
Boykin, he's actually
what's the question?
so right now we're talking about why we can't stick together, why these organizations have parallel missions but don't work together. Right now we're kind of tackling the issue of it being competitive um, when they're seeking funding. Even to tackle the same issues, there's this big competition on who gets the money to solve the problems. We're talking about politicians and how even though we're electing them, they're really not beholden to us. They're beholden to the lobbyists that have the resources and the money to get them in power. And so we're really just trying to tackle the problem on why is it that we can't stick together? One, but why can't we pull our resources and make things happen for ourselves? And so I know that that's something that's close to your heart, especially with your
Well,
mission, the restoration. And so just with that bit of information, what are your initial thoughts?
it's my opinion and part of my belief that we can't stick together because we don't know, one, how to stick together. Two, we don't know why we should stick together. And three, we don't know why we won't figure that out. Both of those out. We don't know why we won't figure out. And when I say that, meaning we don't necessarily know how to stick together because we are all trained differently, programmed differently. We believe differently. So therefore, because we believe differently, we are looking for those people that believe like us. We are for those people who we consider the right people. We are looking for us, in a sense. So therefore, you will find that birds of a feather do flock together, but feed differently, and they will fight over the same crumb. But the second part of that, why we don't know why to come together. We actually do not know why we should come together. We have a lot of motivation talking about if we had our own business, then if we had our control of our own community, then if we pooled our own money, then. But those statements have no understanding behind them because we've always had the opportunity. We've always had there. What we didn't know that there was something missing in us to just do it, like the Nike commercial said. I think I heard something like that. We didn't know how to do that. We didn't know that the United States, before they were united, they were states, and before they were states, they were colonies. Before the colonies.
No, he lost his connection there.
Hey, I wanted to circle back to something really quick. I think that there's also a misconception of the we, right? When you look at other cultures and things like that, there's this misconception that everybody in the culture is on board. And I don't find that to be true because if that was true, you wouldn't have, you know, rich sectors of a country and then your subsequent poor sectors. So I think it's I think it's flawed logic to say that, black people are the only race of people that can't seem to work together. I think that's actually flawed logic. I think more of what we're saying is why is there such a disparity? Maybe there's more of a disparity because when you look at like Asian culture, right?
Yeah.
Asian culture, it's not the whole culture that's getting together to build businesses. It's a handful of people within either a family bloodline or just a entrepreneurial bloodline. It may be, 10 families that go in together and say, hey, we're going to build A, B, C, D, E, and we're going to pool our money together and do them one at a time. Right. So I think there's this misconception that it's just us, and I don't think it's just us. I think
I agree.
I think people in general, going back to what Andrew Boykin was referencing to, It's all about, do you believe this? Do you believe as similar as I believe, or your beliefs, or your is your value system similar to mine? Because it's hard to start something with somebody that's in left field when you're in right field. It's
Right,
very
right.
hard to start something within that parameter, and so people often do, at least from a starting point, tend to connect with people that see things on the same level as they do. Now, as you expand and grow, you do look for those different connectors that are different, because you're trying to tap into different markets in order for, whatever entity you're trying to grow, while you're trying to get it going in, in a large, in a either in a different direction or on a larger scale. Then you start to reach outside of, your own walls of comfort to try to find, okay, how can I tap into this market over here? Well, I need to maybe go to somebody that's in that market and see what type of connection we can make for me to get some market share over here. And so I want to be I want people to cognitively understand that what we're saying isn't necessarily just black people. We're
No, and you
we're
know what?
we're
Because if we,
speaking,
mhm.
yeah,
You also
we're
say if
speaking in generalities.
right, because really, and at this point in our evolution, racism exists. We know that. We know racism exists, but as it relates to our ability to move forward because of it, it may not be holding us back to the extent that we're led to believe. I believe that a lot of it is really socioeconomic more than anything. And so, to your point, um, every culture has their element that's struggling, right? People with minimal resources is really what it comes down to. And so, what do you feel is the difference in the mindset? Because I believe everything starts in the mind. That's why this show is important to me, because in having these conversations, we're able to expand our minds, introduce different ideas, challenge previous beliefs, to make sure that what we're doing and our actions moving forward to make change are proper and effective. And so, when it comes to communities that have minimal resources versus those that have the resources, what do you think is going on mentally that allows us to, as we said before in the opening of the show, um, have the luxury cars and the designer clothes next to a dilapidated building, adjacent from a street full of, empty, commercial properties and things like that? What's the difference in the mindset? Because ultimately, I feel that we should be able to connect together, pull our resources, and beautify our own neighborhoods. Like I talked about, Mr. Harris that owns Harris Park. He had this vision at 24 years old, and he spent the last 29 years beautifying this one block. And at this point, he's getting national recognition for it. And one thing that he stated in our meeting, he was like, man, if there was just 10 people that did this, and I kind of thought about it, I'm like, well, if you spread out something like this, 10 around the city, the part of the city that we have the most problem, it would change the mindset of the people. Because instead of you driving around and seeing trash everywhere, torn down houses, torn down buildings, you're starting to see beauty. And it's hard to say that, when you walk into a $50 motel versus a $300 or $400 a night, 5-star property, it gives you a completely different feeling. And so when you're walking day in and day out around destruction and disaster and waste, it really like takes away the hope, that you have. And so, what would you say on that, Laurent?
I mean, I kind of now I want you to like more so I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood the question more so.
Mhm.
I know because there was a lot that you said. Go ahead,
Yeah,
down for me one more time.
just the difference in the mindset between communities that have minimal resources versus those that have more. You know, why aren't we able
Okay.
to make that difference on our own?
Once again, I think it comes, and I don't want to go too far, but I believe it comes from the history and what we've saw. I believe that we still are stuck in the same mindset that
Yeah.
come together. And if you keep thinking we don't come together, we won't come together. If you got the same mindset of the past, then it's going to perpetuate to the future. You have to be a changed mindset. And once you begin to see, like, listen, we do have. We're not poor, right? We're not poor. We're just putting our money into the wrong things. We just got, and that shit shows, right? We'll buy cars. We'll buy these clothes. We'll buy these things for ourselves, but we're thinking selfishly. We're not thinking about the community. It's about I, right? And when you come together, you can do more united than you can do alone. And so once again, it's like you said, it's the mindset. You got to get out of the mindset that it's about me. We got to get out of the mindset that's it's more so of a impoverished mindset. When you can, no one can do nothing alone. No one can do nothing alone, right? No one has ever really done nothing alone. It always took another individual, and so we got to get around like-minded individuals to put our resources together. But once again, it's a trust thing. If you keep seeing on the news, if you keep hearing out of other people's mouths, if that's all you hear, you begin to believe in, you become a part of the problem, not the solution. So we can come together. But once again, the only reason why there's minimum in neighborhoods is because of the individual. You have to look at yourself. You have to look at yourself. You can't look at everybody else and say they're not doing it, so why shouldn't I do it? That's the reason why the state is keep perpetuating itself. You got to be the one that makes a difference. You can't be the one that says nobody comes together and you're not doing nothing about it, right? You can't stand it. Nobody's coming together, but you're not coming together. So you have to be the one to make the move and get to the right individuals. Keep speaking until you find the right individuals. And as you begin to find them, like you see, like in our community, what we're doing with Elevating Men and how we're connecting with individuals, we're searching. If one door closes, there's another door that's open. There's two more open. But it's about keep going and going and going until change begins to happen.
I agree. Andrew, I can't tell if you're froze or not, or if you can hear us say something real quick.
I'm here.
Oh, okay, man, you're like a statue, bro.
Hey, man.
So, from your viewpoint, you have a little more experience in this particular arena than some of us. What have you seen as far as the problem with connecting and pooling resources?
We don't want to. And it kind of goes back to what I was trying to say before my internet shut down. We don't have a reason to, meaning the states actually united for a bigger purpose than them, and they became the United States. The nations actually united, and they became for a bigger purpose other than their individual nations, and they became the United Nations. What happened was they increased their security, they increased their power base, they increased their voice, they increased. That's what they did. And in the middle of their increase, they still had their separate differences. Behind their united, they still have internal warring. Behind all of it, they still have problems. We're the only ones that, and this is again, like LeBron said, and like you said, we're generally speaking, we're the only ones that can't set our differences aside, can't set our starvation aside, so that we can actually come together for a bigger picture, a picture bigger than us, bigger than our tomorrow. It's not even about our kids. When we try and blame it on our kids, I'm doing this so that I can feed my family. No. That's it's my opinion that that's a lie. And the reason I say it's my opinion that that's a lie is because there are many different ways to feed your family, including coming together with other people, which would increase the opportunity to feed your family. But feeding the family is not the sole purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, whatever that might be. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, no, you may have cut out, because this was a question that I wanted to ask you. I was sharing with them that when I speak to people about life insurance and I talk about their aspirations for the future, for their family, and I say, what would you want to leave your child? And I ask it as a general statement. Of course, I'm selling life insurance, so it's going to tie to money. But one of the thoughts I had is it's always about a dollar amount, a house, a business, but it never has anything to do with the world that they want to leave behind. Meaning that as I'm living my life now, I'm trying to affect change in the overall landscape, because no matter what resources I leave behind for my children, if I leave them a lot of resources in a world filled with turmoil, it's still no good. And so I feel like a lot of people miss the what's outside of themselves. You know, making sure that the people around them and the community that they'll be leaving behind for their children is better versus just the resources. And I wanted
Because
to get your thoughts on that.
many of us have never sat in the shade of a tree. And Tammy just got finished saying, plant a seed that you know you will never sit in the shade of. We
Right.
don't know the value of something outside of ourselves. We don't have an understanding of a bigger picture. We are so caught up in our past that we don't see a future. We don't see a tomorrow. All we see is our past and our pain and our hunger. Those are the only things that we're trying to resolve. And when I say that, what I mean is, even if, say, for instance, we win the Powerball, $75.9 billion. The first thing we're going to do is go backwards. Well, I'm gonna go back to my old neighborhood. I'm gonna take care of everybody that took care of me. I'm gonna go backwards to everything that in my life needed to be fixed. I'm going to go backwards. First and foremost, I do not have a forward plan. I do not have a 100-year plan. But the first thing I'm going to do is go backwards. I am not going to pay my future to make sure that my future is set. Now, and when I'm talking about set, I'm talking about 200 years that money is actually working for my family. 200 years that money is actually working for my family. My mindset of set is, well, I'm going to set up this bank account and I'm going to invest in here so that my kids will have, because we don't understand that our kids are going to have kids that are going to have kids that are going to have kids. We don't have any understanding of that. We don't go to lawyers and set up language that protects that money for generations. We don't have knowledge of that because we're starving.
I'm getting a burner phone first.
Funny. So I actually taught a generational wealth master class. It was here about a month ago, and within the conversation that I was having with the group, it was a group of entrepreneurs who are looking at options that they have as far as setting up generational wealth. And at the beginning of it, we talked about, well, what is generational wealth? And I believe a lot of people just have a misconception when it comes to that. Generational wealth has nothing to do with you and in your lifetime. And so if it's not something that you're setting up, possibly in a trust, to be left and held and to grow for the future, that isn't generational wealth. That's personal wealth. And so I think we have this really big misconception that all of these things that we're doing, all of this busy work and accumulating, we're doing it for the here and now. Just like you said, Andrew, a lot of people, if they hit the Powerball, they're going to start looking backwards. I need to fix this back here, this back there, and I want this now. But there's very little thought or investment into the future. And even when we say the future, we don't look multi-generational. We may just look at our children. And so we're very, very, very short-sighted. Lauren, where do you think that short-sightedness comes from? Is it, that we're not taught? Is that a concept that needs to be introduced when we're young? Or, what are your thoughts there as a father, as someone who will eventually be a grandfather, a great grandfather? What are your thoughts on that long-term thinking and why we don't have that?
Because we don't understand what legacy is all about. We attach our legacy to a dollar amount. We don't attach it to, the values, the morals, the work ethic that we are to pass down to generations. I can say that, while there may have been a generation that got skipped, I can go back and look at my grandfather and be like, okay, like that's what this is about. He left what he thought was generational wealth. When he moved on to be in a better place. And so he left what he thought was generational wealth. And I think the interesting thing is, when you talk about generational wealth, are you imparting the right things that will allow that to continue? right? Because yeah, I'm thinking 200 years down the road, right? The objective then would be for my children to think 200 years down the road. Now we're really starting to think further, you
Yeah.
know, and a lot of times that can get lost to because of the value that we put on the financial, the dollar, right? uh it's because I mean, like I said, there's nothing left of all the work that my grandfather put in all those years. There's very little left. And I'm like, dang, like I can't even get a nickel, and it's like, you know, what happened? That's where that going back into the past that Andrew's talking about, right? What happened? We thought we had it set up and we didn't have it set up. And a lot of things come into play. I mean, fathers, where the fathers at? This is the biggest, like, when I look at just how my children react to me, right? Just as a father, you know, they know when dad means business, I'm sitting, I'm listening, I'm soaking in because dad doesn't always talk a lot. He's
Right.
out here doing action, but when he does talk, I'm listening, I'm soaking. And I have to make sure that my children are able to regurgitate what I am saying, right? If you want to understand if somebody understands your message, ask them to repeat it back to you. Ask them to repeat it back to you. I don't care if you're talking to a kid, you're talking to an adult. Ask them
Right.
to repeat it back to you. That and what they say will be indicative of whether or not they heard you and whether or not they really took in the message that you were trying to provide. And so, fathers, and just not fathers, but men have to step up, right? We have to step up. We have to make better decisions. We have to be better examples of what we want to see. We have to be strong enough to get outside of the pain that we've dealt with for generations and generations. We
I
have to
want to stop
begin
you
to
right
get
there. If
okay.
you don't mind, I want to stop you right there. Dealing with the pain from generations,
Hmm.
right? And so when we talk about at the beginning, we're talking about all of these issues that have been a part of our society, a part of our community for decades on end. There's a lot of organizations who have mission statements that were created to address these issues. They've received funding to address these issues, but yet year after year, the cycle continues, the beat goes on. We're still trying to figure it out. Um, Andrew, you said one thing. You said, "Hey, man, I don't want to meet just to be meeting. I want to make sure that we're taking some sort of action." And so I know that you have some background with dealing with different organizations from your previous, corporate work experience. And so, what have you found as far as the difference in meeting to meet and meeting to take action? And where are we at in that picture? I mean, it sounds like you've seen a lot more meeting just to meet, but what's the breakdown that prevents the action steps? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
So my opinion of the breakdown is that many of these organizational leaders, they go to work, they have a job, and by the time they get that job, the mission statement is already written, and that's the mission statement that they are actually fulfilling. And that mission statement, let's say for nonprofit or for profit, is not necessarily about or written in there about 200 years from now. It's about the bottom line that you must actually see, and that we must actually see you meeting each time. So in their meetings, what they're talking about is the bottom line, not answering the problem.
Hmm.
They're not talking about the problem. They're talking about some of the symptoms, because the symptoms is what keeps them in business. The symptoms is what they actually get funded for. So if the symptoms actually went away because the problems went away, then so would their job. And also so would the CEOs and the board that created that mission statement. It would go away.
Hmm.
So they're not really caring about tomorrow or fixing a problem. They're caring about fulfilling whatever that mission statement was at that time.
So you think
that's,
that people move with the defensive mechanism in place?
I think people move, if I'm understanding you correctly, with a defensive mechanism, yeah, so that they won't lose. Meaning, I won't lose my job, I won't lose my livelihood, I won't lose my reputation, I won't lose. I
Mhm.
need to be doubly as good, not only to get this job, but to keep this job. And the purpose of keeping this job is solely to feed my family and or advance my purpose. And my purpose is feeding me and my family.
Yeah. So
It's not about 200 years from now.
you starting to hit it on the head now.
Mhm.
That's why. I mean, you take again a non for profit or for profit. Like, I mean, why do I want to work with somebody? Because now you cutting into my bottom line. So you're competition to me. You're not an asset to me. You're competition to me.
Mhm.
And I gotta eradicate the competition. I gotta take the competition out.
Mhm.
You know, and that's because we ask that question all the time. Like, I mean, we got all these organizations, and all these organizations have a slightly different mission statement. They word it slightly different so that
Right.
they can make it their own. And then you get together and you say, "Hey, I want to work together." And we've experienced this, where it's like, "Oh man, we love what you're doing. If you want to bring that over here and put it under this umbrella, we can definitely do some things. I love your energy, I love your passion. Just bring it over here and put it under this umbrella. That way, hey, you're not competition anymore. Right now, you work for me.
Mhm.
And I get to control the game. I'm still the point guard, and so and it begs the question, is competition good or is competition bad? Because ultimately, there is a level of competition to be played. And is it about winning or losing, or is it about aiding and helping thrive? You know,
That's
and
that's the point. Like that, I think that's the biggest point. Like, what are we competing for? And I feel like right now it's competing for resources and funding, and not so much to address the issue, but resources and funding to keep the organization going.
I
Because
don't even
ultimately, yeah,
I don't
go
even
ahead.
think it's that. I think it's notoriety. I think it's notoriety. I want to be the man or the woman. I want to be top dog. I don't think it's the funding. I think it's all about the notoriety. It's all about the attention to keep me feeling good about myself. You
Like I said,
know,
me, and that's what I was saying. Everything's about me. It's about what can I do? How can I look? How can I get on the platform? I don't want to work with this individual because they're going to get the recognition. It was my idea. What? Who cares about being your idea? It's about
Right.
what are we getting here? How are we changing the community? How are we changing our neighborhoods? How are we changing our surroundings? It's not about the me. And once we take our attention off of us and put it on the people, that's when change truly happens. And I know
Right.
Andrew asked the question as far as you talked about leaving generational wealth, and it was mentioned that generational wealth, that was a very good point. Is generational, meaning that it's not going to benefit you, but it's going to benefit generations. See, even the Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Why is that?
Right.
It's a selfless act. It's not about you. That's why I believe so much in life insurance. And I commend you even in doing it. And I even do it on my as well on the side, but I don't really, advertise like as much for real. But ultimately, that's why that's so important, because it's about the next generation. It's about leaving an inheritance that's passed down, a legacy. That's a legacy when you dead and gone, and people are still able to move. People are able to still build. People are able to still last without you, right? I asked the question to some individuals as far as, dude, when you die, right?
Mhm.
What will live on? Will will,
Right.
will, will live on because if you was here. See, most of us right now, and I probably can speak for every last one of us on the call or on the Zoom right now, on this show right now, that we didn't have anybody who left us anything.
Mm.
Like, that's the reason why we're in the situation right now. Imagine starting off on top in life. Imagine having a 2 million, 3 million, $4 million to go ahead and perpetuate the next generation. Imagine living in that, and we can make change instead of trying to work so much for it. But what happens is we keep on dying. We're not leaving nothing behind. So therefore, we got to keep starting over and over and over. It's poverty, 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 poverty. and we're not getting out of it because we're about us. It's about selfishness. We got to be selfless, not selfish. We got to change.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And see, and then here goes the other question. So, Andrew, I want to get your opinion on this and have you kind of elaborate a little bit. But we're talking about action moving forward. And so we get the generational wealth piece down, so that's a part of it. So we start getting life insurance. We start understanding that it isn't about me today. We set up trust. We give the trust instructions for that money to not be touched for 50 to 100 years, and it's gaining interest so that, the family, like Warren spoke about, something is built, but can we all receive something from it? So let's say that we get to that point. There's still something within our mindset that we're so material that a lot of people, if they did receive that $3-4 million, it's all going to stay within their realm of things. They're going to get the car they want, the big house that they want. They're going to do certain things for their children. Andrew, when it comes to really like being outside of ourselves, like we talked about Black Wall Street, we talked about the different communities across America where people did pull their resources together and created something great. So they're at the point of actually having resources. Well, we do still understand that there's a power structure that fights against that. And so those cities were destroyed, but because they weren't connected, they didn't have anyone to come to their rescue. And so that's a conversation you and I had kind of off camera. Can you just like elaborate on that and give us some of your thoughts on us having resources, but that still not being enough if we're not connected as people?
Well, what that says is that we're trying to play a game, but we don't understand all the rules. And what we are saying is that, because I'll put it in a different sense. I have a couple of friends that says when we talk about futures, says, "Hey man, I'm taking care of my future. I got a 401k, I got life insurance. My kids are going to be set. They're gonna be set. My kids are going to be set." And what they don't realize is what their kids are is another Black Wall Street. Their kids are another Arkansas, another Rosewood, another place that was overran because someone saw that they could feed from those persons. They took the land so that they can feed themselves more. They took the resources on the land so that they can feed more. And what happened was because those kids, let's call it Black Wall Street, those kids did not have anyone outside of what their parents left them, which was no net, no network, no net working for them, no connections guaranteeing their safety, or even saying that if you mess with them, then we're coming. If you do this, then there was no if you do this, then outside of them. There was no runner that could go all the way to Arkansas or to Chicago or to California or to Philadelphia and say, "Hey, we need your help." There was nothing like that, and the surrounding communities knew that. So all they did was they destroyed and they fed from what those persons either had or built. And what we don't understand today is that when we're setting our individual kids up to be individuals in this world, the biggest fears that they will have is the knowledge that they are alone and that they cannot trust the next person because the person that looks like them is hungry. And there's a possibility that person that's hanging around them knows that I have access, or I have excess, not access, but excess food. I
So
have
that point
excess.
there, that point there, because I want to keep you there because that's a good point. And so one conversation that we hear a lot is in our communities, when people do reach a certain status, a financial level of success, so to speak, then they're ready to leave because, of course, there's better schools, there's better amenities, etc. But also exactly what you said, they're afraid of the crab in the barrel mentality, which says, now that I have and you don't, you're going to be looking to take from me. Um, is that a healthy mindset? Is that valid? Or should it be viewed as now that I have, what can I do to help change this situation so that we can still grow and thrive together? What are
Again,
your thoughts on that?
there's no purpose, meaning it's all about feeding. There's no feeding so that I can get strong, so that I can strengthen my family, so that I can protect what you have shared with us. There is no sharecropping. There is no shared land that we now have. There is, I need to eat and you have access, and you have a fence up around your excess, and I need to get to it by any means necessary. So if I have to befriend you until I can get you outside of that gate, so that my friends can sneak around the back, so that we can eventually take what you have and eat, something's going to happen because we have to eat. That's as far as our plan goes. It does not go about us coming together or using this food for a greater purpose, meaning to strengthen ourselves, show others how to strengthen themselves. The stronger that we get and spread out our strength, meaning the larger our strength gets and grows for a common purpose. Now, what are we using that strength for? We're actually using that strength to actually plant back into the field so that the resources will replenish. We are now bringing back to the storeroom because that was the source of how we got strong. And what we're going to do is we're going to replicate that elsewhere and make sure that we're connected to that replication, so that now we're feeding them and they're replenishing us. Not only are they appreciative, but they're also strong enough to protect the reason. And the reason is, now not only are we now eating, but we're actually planting. We're preparing.
Right, right. Lauren, same question to you. Like, when it comes to our community, someone reaches a certain financial level of success, they leave the community versus reinvesting and pulling up the people around them. Is that valid? Are they right in that? What are your thoughts?
I mean, a man's number one responsibility is to his family first, right?
Yes.
I think that has to be understood. I think just across the board that a man's number one responsibility is to his family first. He's responsible for his family's safety, their emotional health, this, that, and the third. When you talk about people, well, I'll just use the phrase, people leaving the hood. Uh, you know, I think it kind of depends. Like, some people may have a reason. Maybe, hey, I can't find enough space where I'm at. It's too crowded. And so I gotta go somewhere out to get 10 acres. There's not 10 acres available nearby, So I think everybody has different reasons. I
And let me
think that
reframe that question for you. Let me reframe it just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because I my apologies, because I did not word that properly. And so when I say leaving the hood, so to speak, I mean leaving it as they left it. And so there's a difference in moving out of the hood. Like yourself, you don't live right in the inner city, but
Right.
you have a heart for the community, and you're still looking to make change in the community that you left. And so I'm speaking to those people that, maybe grew up in the hood, got a certain level of financial success, left and never looked back, or looked to reach back and solve any of the issues that they now have power to help change.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes back to what LaRon has kind of been talking about all night, which is, we have to move away from a place of selfish into a place of selfless. I mean, there's enough for everybody to eat, right? There's enough for us to share with one another. The rewards of our harvest, and so I think that a lot of people do that because they never had a value system. Like, there's tons of people in the hood that they just don't have a value system. So if you don't have a value system, it makes perfect sense of why once you get more that you out, because you didn't have a value system to start with. And so why would you come back? You've attained something better and you're on to the bright lights. It's brighter over there. Now I have the resources to be able to play over there. A lot of times it's just because we couldn't play. Now I can play. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go over there. There's more. Sometimes there's better. And so you're gonna go and milk that cow next. So I think that I think it's that whole selfish versus selfless. I'm thinking about myself. I'm not thinking about, you know, other people around me. So I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's all a part of that generational wealth. We're not just talking about money, but we're
Right.
talking about a generational mindset,
Yes.
right? And so if you don't have that generational mindset, then you just gonna go on to, you know, the next trendy fad, basically.
You
Go
know,
ahead,
And
Drew.
you had a
Yes, you
comment?
can. Double
Yes.
Dutch.
Lojo said something similar. Joe Lojo, and I'm going to chop it up a little bit, so forgive me for it. You said a man's primary purpose is to his family or something like that. His primary responsibility is to his family.
First.
Yeah, first. Um, what I'd like to believe, and I don't necessarily have the facts to back this up, but that's part of our, and Andrew, I think, wanted me to say this word for so long, part of our mental blight, our missing piece that we don't understand. Um, the society at large that we have gotten many of our direction from, many of our desire and purpose from, meaning we want to build a business, we want a better neighborhood, we want what they have. Okay, so what we don't understand is, and it's just my belief that their primary their primary purpose or responsibility was not to their family first. It was not to their family second, and it was not to their family 10th. It was to their purpose. And their purpose was to actually take whatever they had or did not have and build. They had a business to actually build. And when they had family, meaning when they took on a wife, him build his business. And then she was to bear children so that not only the children would come up and start to work the business, they would actually learn and take over the business to continue it. And the reason that I say that his responsibility was not to his family, any of those children that did not fall in that plan and business or was detrimental to the business was erased from the business. Meaning
Mm.
there have been stories of many a millionaires Xing out their children, and or there have been stories of family members actually, I want to say killing another family member because they were detrimental to the business. But that's what conglomerates do. Meaning, if somebody is poisoning the process or the purpose, you got to get rid of that poison, no matter who they are, because this is not about us. This is about building a tomorrow. Because what we're looking
So,
at right now, it didn't start yesterday in the yesterday that we think. It didn't start in 1900. It didn't start in 1800. It didn't start when the boat over to what they then called New yesterday or old called it New England, but the process of building the governmental structure left over here. And they still taxes to their homeland because
mm,
never about them starting something new. This was about a continuation of the process of the plan, and anybody who didn't stick with it was xed out by any means necessary, even family members.
um,
And that's just my opinion.
well, just as him bringing that up, what are your thoughts on that, Lojo? Because that definitely gave me a different perspective a little bit, because I definitely, automatically when it comes to, it's family first, protect my family first. But with you bringing that to the table, Andrew, it does make me think of, like, say royal, the royal family. I, I guess I have to assume that they're not family first. It's power first. They want to keep the power within the family. But even if there's someone within the family who's, possibly detrimental to that vision, then they've got to go, because the purpose overrides blood even.
Exactly.
That's interesting. What are your thoughts on that, Lojo and LaRon? After that, I'd like to hear your thoughts as well.
So That's no, I that definitely is an enlightening thought, right? I can't say that it has no merit because it has a lot of merit. Uh, and so it's using the word purpose gives a different perspective because I think that's the word that gave it a different perspective. Is the word purpose, and not allowing anybody to be able to come in and destroy or rock that boat. And when I say, a man's responsibility is to his family first, that doesn't come with the thought process that, everybody in that family is going to do the right thing, because we have lots of history that says otherwise. I come from a bloodline that's happened before. So I am extremely aware of, you know, everybody in the family may not be able to be a part of this because giving them a piece will destroy the whole pie. And so you have to be protective of the pie and who you giving out pieces of the pie to, right? And so I definitely do understand and respect that statement, because that is the other side, right? That is the other side of you know family coming first. And sometimes when you say, family comes first, maybe I can't share this pie with you in order to protect you, right? Because if I give you the piece of this pie, you gonna mess it up. I'm just giving you that slice. So I'm protecting you by not maybe sharing a slice of the pie with you. And I think there has to be an understanding and a recognition of when you have to do that. Because there are going to be times where that absolutely has to happen. Otherwise, I mean, you're gonna be asking Big Mama to make another pie from scratch, and that's hard. Starting over is hard.
What are your thoughts, Laurent?
Man, that perspective changed everything. I kid you not. I
Yeah,
was thinking, yeah, Lojo, you're right. You're right, bro. That makes sense. Then Andrew come in here with the whole shifting of perspective on purpose, and then Lojo comes back and clears it up. That says, hey, yo, like there could be someone in the family that will mess it up, mess up the legacy, squander it. Simply because uh that's just what they did. That's just what they do. I mean, they messed up the purpose, the vision. The vision's always bigger than the person.
right, right,
Because
right.
vision, once again, is not really about you. We go back to the same thing. The vision is not so much about you. You're just in the vision. You're just a part of the vision. You're just a vision carrier. So you got to look and say, when you creating a vision, it's for someone else to experience. It's not just for you to experience. You may live in the vision, right, in the purpose a little bit, but ultimately, the purpose of the vision is what the vision is to do, which is the purpose. Hopefully that made sense. I mean, if you really heard what I said, you probably would have caught that.
Right, right.
But
Now,
ultimately, you know,
now
I,
one,
I agree. Go ahead.
I was gonna say one thing that brings up too. So when we talk about purpose and for it to being able to be carried on long term, so we're talking about generational wealth, but we're really talking about the generational mindset when it comes to our children, because everything has to have an action step included. And so when it comes to our children, what does that look like, giving them a purpose and helping them understand long-term vision? Because right now the media and the world and society as a whole would have them believe that life is just about yourself. You only live once. Do for yourself, get what you want, get what you can. And so how do we shift their mindset and help them understand that long-term vision, that long-term purpose, and including family and community into that purpose is really important? I was asking that, Andrew. What does that look like?
Well, what it looks like to me is not necessarily shifting someone's mindset outside of me, but more so understanding how my mind is not shifted correctly, or where it lacks. Meaning, if I don't have purpose or a plan, there's nothing I can teach anybody outside of me about purpose and a plan. I can talk about it all day, but I'm not teaching anybody anything because they're not learning. They're not listening to me. They're watching me. However, if I shift my own mind and find out where am I falling short, and then I actually start to work on that, then actually my walk and my work will actually become my words, my testament, my testimony. And people will actually become more interested in, hey, how did you get up there? Or how did you get that far down that wooded road? And once they end that with a question mark, they leave it open for me to tell them what I did, what I discovered about myself, the fears that I had about this road less traveled, the fears that I had to conquer and how I conquered them, and how some of them not only still are with me, but I swing this axe cutting down trees anyway because there's something greater than my fears. There's a purpose here.
What I get from that is less talking, more doing, and just lead by example. And as you lead by example,
Exactly.
people will want to know how you got where you were. That's how my conversation with Chris was this morning. He said, look, as far as mentorship and all of that, my mentorship is doing what I do. And young men see that and they ask me questions. I think that's beautiful. Did either of you have anything to add to that specifically?
Yeah, I would say, you know, because I agree with all of that. Ultimately, the way you move is how people view you. Uh, I think I would add that you need to find ways uh, for visibility, because it's one thing to live and to walk in a certain way, but if nobody sees it, I mean, it doesn't. All it is something that you're doing, and I think that's a lot of what some of the issue is there's so much negative media, so much negative attention being put out into the atmosphere for everybody, children and adults alike. We're all absorbing it, right? But we don't. We put so much less positive things back in the community because our mindset is of such that you know see, like, I'm right here, like, watch what I'm doing. And I think sometimes it's important to highlight, right? I think it's important to highlight you know what that looks like, that what that is, because for every instance where we think that for every instance where someone does see us, there's another instance where somebody that probably needs that doesn't get an opportunity to see it. Maybe it's as simple as they don't have the resources. you know you think about the hood. How many people in the hood be like, man, I didn't get on my first plane till I was 35, 40 years old because the resources weren't available. Nobody came to me. I finally was able to somehow position myself to go to it. And so, we definitely have to be doers. And within that doing, we need to make sure that that doing has a level of highlight to it, or in order for people to ask the question, because people aren't going to ask questions on what they can't see.
And see
There's not a reason
what
to go ahead. No, go ahead, jump in here.
no, see what Lojo was saying to me talks about what Andrew has been wanting to talk about for a while is mental blight. Because I was one of those guys that did not know that I could have taken a flight because I thought it was like too expensive or whatever the case may be. However, looking back over the hundreds of thousands of dollars that went through my hands for nothingness, I could have paid for 200 flights a day. I just did not know, nor did I seek to know, nor did I
Yeah.
get out of myself and my ego to ask. There was a
Hmm.
whole lot of reasons why what I wanted, what I was staring at right in front of me, was miles away from my first step, from where I was actually standing. But I could
And,
see it.
And
and
that
this
and
should be
that's big.
even more I was say it should be even more apparent now that disparity. So kind of like Mojo said, that definitely is a thing. People are doing great things, but we don't see it, so we don't know to ask the questions. But to your point, Andrew, mental blight really just kind of blinds us. And just for a rough definition of mental blight, it's really what blocks us from seeing opportunity. It's our past, it's our trauma, it's what we've seen from our parents. It's what we've heard about in history about what we can't do and what we're incapable of that just blinds us to the opportunities that are in our face. Prime example, I have people ask me questions all the time. Hey, I'm thinking about getting into this or I'm thinking about getting into that. What are your thoughts? And usually my first question is, well, what have you found out so far during your research? Because to me, the first step is, hey, if I want to do something, let me go to Google and start asking some questions. And by the time I come to someone else with questions, I've already got a base of knowledge because it's something that I'm interested in. That lets me know that maybe I'm not suffering from as much mental blight as someone else. But sometimes we kind of look and we say, well, dude, you could have looked that up online. But we discount the fact that a lot of people in our community are mentally blighted, so they don't see that. And so for those of us who are a little better off, we have to recognize that. We have to be able to recognize that mental blight in our counterparts within the community and allow them grace and allow them room, which is why we have to bring the information to them. Like, so initiatives like what we're doing with Elevating Men, putting these conversations out so that they can be, consumed by anyone, is important. Or the community event that we're putting together, making things more visible. I believe all of that is important. So I agree with both of you definitely.
And that's that counterbalance, right? Like I think one of the first things I started off with is two sides to every story,
Right.
right? So there has to be an accountability on one side, and then on the flip side, there has to be an accountability too. One of the things that I'm not afraid to be the dumb person in the class that raised my hand to ask a question,
Right. Right.
because
I
I
was.
guarantee you, I guarantee you that person that didn't ask the question is like, I'm glad he asked because I had the same doggone question,
Yeah.
And a lot of us are afraid to be that person because then it puts what we think is a negative light on us. Oh, he just stupid. He didn't know. When a lot of the times that question is not only helping you because you didn't know, but it's also helping 3, 4 other people that are sitting right next to you that were just slightly fearful, and they were like, "I'm not gonna ask the question," right? And so uh, and we do a lot of things to block uh not only our growth, but when we talk about generational, we do a lot of things to block our generation's growth too, because you can't teach what you don't know, but you can find a resource to gather that information or maybe have it presented, right? How many times do you hear a parent be like, well, I don't want my kids, like they're honest, and it sounds shitty, but they'll say, I mean, I'm not really interested in my kids being better than me.
Oh yeah,
And
I
it's
even
like,
hear with insurance. I hear people, I'm not
yeah,
worried. I'm not
my
worried about,
my kid's
what
not gonna
they'll get
profit off
theirs.
of me.
I got
Right?
mine and they'll get theirs.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's a really sad, thought, but that goes back to the initiation of uh we're stuck in our own pain. So
mm,
we're
yeah,
not willing to help somebody else, even if it's somebody that we helped bring into this world. We like, nah, you're not gonna get a leg up on me, because it
right,
is that crab in the barrel mentality, right? I'm not
mm,
just pulling the next man down. I'm taking everybody down this hill with me. When I fall down the hill, I'm
yeah,
grabbing people as I'm rolling, like, yep, you too, yep, you too. Even if it's your own flesh and blood, that really you supposed to be like, hey man,
right,
hop
right,
on my
right,
back so you can go to that next level. And we just, some of us just haven't gotten there, to really understand that you know, that's more important. Like I always say, I still had plans to do things in life, but what is most important to me is to be able to impart the right wisdom and the right guidance to my children so they could pass it to their children, and so on and so forth. It's not about my shine no more.
Right.
Hey, my opportunities will come, and that's great. But what's more important is that my kids are like, yep. See, I remember back in the G when I was 8. Like, you got to get them young. You can't wait till they get older. You got to get them young. You know, I remember my dad sitting down and talking to me, or my mom sitting down and talking to me when I was just a little grasshopper, just dropping game. You know, hey, little man, hey, come on, nope, off the video games. Let's talk about what business you want to build. Let me help you become more financial literate at a younger age than I was. You
Right.
know, because we're just, man, we're so illiterate about so many different things that but we won't get out of our own way to try to fix it. You know, whether we're talking about money, we're talking about emotions, you know, we're so illiterate, we don't seek out the resources to get the help that we need. And what do? We pass it right down to the next generation. We just pass it down, you know, instead of saying, nope, I got to break this cycle now. And it's not just when things are bad though, too. It's when things are going okay, too. Things can be good and you still need to figure out, you know, how to make things better. You know, the mindset of never stop improving in order to continue to elevate, to begin to continue to push things to that next level, you know, not only for ourselves, but for our generations that come after us, you know, so
That's
So he said something also about when he mentioned classroom and asking questions. We also don't understand how we perpetuate the pain, be it kids that will laugh at us at an early and impressionable age that will shut us down, being it adults that will laugh at other adults um, in front of us so that we will make sure that we laugh at that adult and never see what's behind that adult's motives and means. Meaning, to give you an example, there was a man when I lived in Montgomery, Alabama. He used to have his overalls on, pushing a lawnmower, going around cutting every yard on the block. And he pushed it slow, and he wouldn't speak to nobody because he stuttered. He also had the skin coloration where part of his skin was lighter and part of his skin was darker. And we laughed. My grandmother used to send me around to his house on the 15th of every month. Excuse me, it was the first of every month. First or the 15th. Anyway, send me around to his house with six $20, or I mean, yeah, three $20 bills, a 10, and a $5 bill. And I was supposed to count that to him. I was like maybe 5, 7 years old, but I was supposed to count that to him. It was $75. That was the mortgage to that house. What we didn't know is he owned every house on the block. He owned every house on the block. And he was taking care of his property. And not only was he taking care of his property, but remember when I see it, he was charging $75 or less a month because my aunts who stayed, my mother's sisters who stayed next door were unemployed. So they were paying even less. But it was not about the money to him. And he kept his properties as best he could up for the people that actually knew him. But nobody of my age really knew him because nobody stopped to explain that there's a business owner right there. His business is whatever he does, but he actually owns these houses. He owns these properties. And
yeah,
we thank
yeah,
him for that. And we
that
appreciate him for that.
that's
And we
deep.
aspire. Yeah.
yeah.
That's deep. That's deep, man.
That's big.
Because
Um,
think about this, right? Think about, so he has the business acumen up here, but he doesn't know how to articulate it, right? So when we talk, Andrew talks about those 6 degrees of separation. What if somebody just would have been like, "Hey, man, I know you stutter, man. You know, let me help you on the side. You know what I'm saying? You doing this for us. Let me do this for you, because maybe he would have been comfortable enough to talk to people to then teach them how to become business literate because he already was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me clarify. He didn't talk to us because we laughed. We weren't ready to listen, no matter what.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
thought you said he wasn't willing to talk because he
no,
stuttered a
he
lot.
wouldn't he wouldn't stop to talk to us. He just pushed his lawnmower slowly through the neighborhood and did his business. He waved and talked to the mothers, the grandmothers, and stuff like that. Would speak to them, which taught us how to speak to people. But we did not understand that we didn't want to listen, so he didn't have time to talk. When I went around to his house to count that money out, he praised me. That is and that's why my grandmother wanted me to do that, to learn how to count. Go and count just like this. And he would say, man, that is very good. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to jump in really quick. Our brother LaRon, he has to go here in just a second. But before he leaves, he had a quick message. This is in regards to our event, Men and Boys Day at the park. We're looking to have this as a recurring event just to make some change in the community so that people can see something different. And so, LaRon had just kind of a message just to motivate, the men that we're looking for. We're looking for men to be a part of this event, from vendors to those who will connect with the boys and, help walk them through the activities and things like that. So we are looking for men's help. And so definitely reach out to us. But LaRon, what were your last words?
I was gonna say, yeah, like we are definitely having an event, and we are looking for, once again, mentors. We're looking for mentors, people who can show the youth that men are there, right? We are in our communities because it's been said that it's the men that don't show up. It's the men who don't show up. And we're trying to change that narrative. We want to change the narrative in our community. Us men, we do show up. We can unite. We can make a change in our difference in our neighborhoods, in our community, right? That's what the whole thing really what elevating men was about, is to elevate men, is to elevate each other. So on this day, we're going to put it out that we want you to come on out and support the youth. Come on out and support and show that we are in our communities moving. Because a lot of the women, and we praise the women for doing what they do. We thank you, women. But men, we need men. Men being the head of the household. Men standing up saying, hey, we're here. We support. We need mentors, especially with us partner with big brothers and big sisters, right? We're going to have a lot of fun out there, and we want to see unity. We always talk about unity as men. We want to see unity. And so please come on out. We're going to be having fun. It's going to be bounce houses. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be different activities, different games. We're trying to show up deep. We got to change it. We talk about not just having a conversation, not just sounding good, not just being on Elevating Men every week, which is a great thing, but we got to take action. So we want you to be there. Be the difference. I heard of this saying and I stick to it and I take it for myself, and I want you to receive this for yourself. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Be the change that you want to see in the world. There's so many people out there. There's so many youth out there who don't have their father. They don't have any mentors. They need it, y'all. Like, they really need us, y'all. So we want you all to come out on this event. I believe it's June 6th. Did I say that right? Day right, Andrew? I don't know if I said the day right. I don't have my calendar in front of me. But we want you all to come out. Is it June 6th, Andrew? I just want to make sure really quick.
You're muted, Andrew.
It's August 7th.
I'm so sorry. I don't know. I'm thinking of a different day on the
It's all right.
Forgive me. But yeah, we want you to come out. Listen, we got to change it. We got to change the narrative. And we want mentors. We're looking for people even to partner with us as we partner with big brothers and big sisters. We want you to partner with us as we partner with big brothers and big sisters. There's so many people that need us, y'all. And I'll say it again. They need us, y'all. We're on here every week. Why? Because this is the message that we're trying to get across. We got to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to stand up, man. Stand up, man. Elevate, man. Elevate, man. Elevate, man. If you know how it was not to have a father or a mentor in your life, imagine how many kids are going through the same thing as you've been through, right? Thank God I was fortunate to have both of my parents in my home, but I'm rare. That's not normal. I found out. I didn't know that wasn't normal, to be honest. I know. How do you not know that? I didn't know because I had mine. So many people don't have theirs. And if you know that, we want you to come out August 7th. And we're going to be announcing this on our Facebook. We're going to be saying this again. We want you to support. So bring someone with you. Bring someone with you, someone who's willing to come out, someone who will help with the youth, someone who's looking to partner with us as we partner with big brothers and big sisters so we can change our community by showing that men do step up and change the world. Amen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, I love you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. I'm sorry, I gotta head out and take care of some things. Work. Gotta go ahead to work and do some things over here. But I love you all. It was a pleasure being back with my brothers on here, and I can't wait to see y'all next time on Elevating Man. I freaking love it.
All right, man. We love you too.
Nice, man.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, guys, yeah. So we are at our time. This is a conversation that we're gonna have to have several to unpack, because we don't want to just talk. We don't want to just have a conversation. We want to get down to a point of solutions and solving problems. And so we'll definitely be talking about this topic over the next few weeks, which is mental blight. It's the feeling of despair, the feeling of hopelessness that most people in our community have, that blocks them from taking the actions they could easily take to improve their situation. And so before we go, guys, did you guys have any last thoughts or comments?
So, yeah, mental blight is something that we definitely have to unpack. If we understand, as we grow to understand the concept, it will actually share with us that these conversations that we're having have not only been spoken for the past at least 70 years or more, but they will continue if we just keep talking. And why we keep talking is because we talk about what the solutions are. However, there is a disconnect between our talk and the results of what we're really trying to get. Because if we were really putting our talk into the results that we were really trying to get, this conversation would have been dead at least 40 years ago. So our goal is to make sure that we understand, what is it that we're not doing? What is it that we're only talking about? What is it that we're not doing? And what's the difference in the conversation that is being had and the action that needs to be done? Because, and when he was talking about men, I want to end with this. A lot of people talking about, kids today is just so out of whack. They don't have no discipline, no care. Man, it was different back when we had Big Mama, and back in Big Mama's days. And the reason they say that they call upon Big Mama and wish she was still here is because she was the disciplinarian. But what that says is Big Daddy was gone. Big Daddy was missing. Imagine a world of tomorrow that says, man, I wish that I could have met my Big Daddy that actually stood up and finally protected our family, finally gave us a mission and a focus that not only he died for, but he planted in us and for us. We don't have that Big Daddy mentality. We have plenty of Big Daddies, but we just don't know how to get from what we think we want, what we say we want, into our tomorrow. And that's my last statement.
Yes, sir. Lojo?
Man, I'm gonna end with this. Last week, I got to have a crowning papa moment in my life. My daughter graduated from college last week. And it was a thank you. It was a crowning moment because I remember being 16 years old and not having my father in my life, and now having made the irresponsible decision of bringing a kid in, and what I was going to do different to make sure that that generational curse broke with me, that it stopped with me. And I will speak to every man, every father. Don't ever think it's too late to step back into your child's life and offer them guidance, wisdom, offer them a relationship. It's never too late. We live in so much shame, so much pain from the things that we didn't do, that we never position ourselves just to do. And I'm telling you right here, right now, you got to stop the cycle right here, right now. It's the simple things. Don't complicate it. Don't complicate it. You don't even, apology can come later. In some cases, apologies can come later. Just start. Take the first step. Take the first step to restoring those relationships. Because the more men that understand the value of who they are and what they bring to this world, we can begin to create that change that we are dying to see. We can begin to rebuild our communities, not only for right now, but more importantly, for the future, for our children, for our children's children, for our children's children's children, so on and so forth. We said one can set the path for 200 years. So that means three can set the path for 600. But let's start with the two. Let's start with the two right here, right now. We have a responsibility to the people that we brought in, the little people that we brought into this world, to make sure that they understand when you leave, you better leave it better than you got it. That's the only way we make this better. Teach them to leave it better than when they got it. And if we can do that, we can actually do something. Lojo Speaks. Y'all know where I'm at. I'm always here. I'm everywhere you need me to be. I'm tapping in if you need me to tap in. So let's tap in together.
Love it, love it. Everybody who's watching, we need your help. We need you to share this broadcast. We need you to like. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate your input. We value all of that. But we want more people to know that these conversations are happening here so that we can change the mindset and eventually change the narrative within our community. As we've been talking about throughout this broadcast, we do have an event coming up. It's a little ways out, but I want you to put it on your calendar right now. And that's August 7th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Harris Park, Kansas City, Missouri. We're going to have our first Men and Boys Day at the park. I'm very excited about it. It's going to be an awesome event. We're going to connect with our young men. We're going to show them that they are loved and cared for, that they're special, and that they are important. And so we're looking for sponsors. We're looking for vendors. We're looking for men who can be at the event that are willing to connect with the young boys in our community. We need you. We need your help. And so please contact either myself or anyone on the Elevating Men's panel, and we can get you connected to the information that you need to be a part of the event. And so with that being said, we appreciate you. We'll be back again next Monday. Again, tackling these important issues and hopefully changing some minds so that we can change our community. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Again, share this broadcast. Have a great evening.